Okay, there are several features of a snowblower that makes it a lot like an old sports car. An old sports car is manual shift. An old sports car has a carburetor instead of electronic fuel injection. So that means that the air to fuel mixture is set manually as opposed to a computer doing that. And a snowblower has those things. Now, there are several pieces here, right? So first of all, we have the gear lever. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 forward gears, 1, 2 reverse gears. We have this lever here, which basically kind of simulates the accelerator. It determines how much gas we are putting into the engine. This knob here determines how much air. Between those two, that's how we get our mixture of air to fuel. That allows it to run. Additionally, we'll pan back out here in a minute, we have a clutch, just like an old sports car would have. But an old sports car, any sports car that has a clutch, the clutch is disengaged automatically. You engage it with your foot when you want to shift gears and so forth. With a snowblower, the clutch is automatically engaged. Until you pull a lever, it doesn't engage the gears to drive the wheels. So you have to keep that lever pulled for the entire duration that you want it to move. So on this particular snowblower, this is the clutch. Like you would operate with your foot. On here, it operates by your hand. When you pull this down, it engages the drive gears. And based on where you have this lever set, which we would always have it all the way up full when we are running it, and which gear you have it in, will determine how fast it goes. This determines how much power the engine has to be able to throw snow. So we just always keep it at maximum unless we're shutting it off. This determines how fast the snowblower is going to move for you. But in order to make it move, you have to pull this lever down. If you're driving along and you release this, it's going to make it stop. So this will make it stop or go. This tells it how fast to go. On the other side, the left side, you have the lever for the auger, the things that turn at the front that pull the snow in and throw it out. Unless this is pushed down, it's not throwing any snow. When it's pushed down, it can throw snow. Now also, on an old sports car, you have to prime the engine. And to do that with this, you press this button 6 times. You only need to do that when the engine is cold or has only been running for a few minutes. If it's been running for 15, 20 minutes, you might not have to do that. If you have to restart it for some reason, try it without first. If it doesn't want to start, then reprime it with 3 to 4 additional pumps of gas. Now, before you try to start any engine indoors, you have to make sure that it's well ventilated. Right now, this garage door is shut. We need to open that up. If you start a gasoline engine indoors without being properly ventilated, it's going to expel carbon monoxide, which will kill you much faster than you realize. So never, ever start an engine indoors without proper ventilation. That's rule number 1. Rule 2, we need to check the fuel and the oil. I've already checked the oil for you, but just for your reference, it is this yellow piece right here. It just unscrews, just like checking the oil in your car. You unscrew it, you remove it, you wipe it off, you dip it back in and make sure it's within the fill limits that are indicated. The other thing that you want to make sure that you do before you try to start the engine is to check how much gas is in here. This can be really hard to turn. You might have to grip it with 2 hands, whatever it takes to get it done. But when you close it back up, you do not need to crank down. Just get it very slightly snug. If you run it out of gas out in the driveway, it's a long push and a difficult push to get it back up here. You will want to use a flashlight to look down in there, especially if it's at night, to get an idea how much is in there. You should definitely be able to see gasoline. Otherwise, you're going to run out while you're trying to plow. More safety. Never, ever, under any circumstances, put your hand down into that shaft. That is where the snow comes out. That is where the metal blades are that turn and throw the snow. I don't care if the engine is off. Never do that. There is a stick right here that you can use for that purpose. Also, never ever under any circumstances stick your hand up in this area. Again, we have this stick if you need to do something in there or get something longer. Never stick your hands up in there. It's just not worth the risk. One more thing on safety. Never try to clear the shaft or the front while the engine is running. Always shut it off first. If you need to clear it for some reason, drive it back up to the garage so it will be easier to restart with the electric start before you clear it out. But never mess with the chute or the front with the stick or anything. And obviously, again, never put your hands in either of those, but never mess with those while the engine is running. Now let's go through the startup sequence. The first thing that you will do is lift this lever, the one that controls how much gas is going to go to the engine, all the way up. You're going to leave that up for the entire time that you're running the engine. In the case of emergency or just when you're ready to shut it off, push this back down. It will shut it off faster than any other means that you can. The engine will burn up the very last remaining bits of fuel that are in there. It takes a fraction of a second and will shut off the engine. So let's flip this back up. The next thing you need to do with a cold engine is limit the amount of air that can get in there. So you turn this knob all the way to the right. What that does is limits the amount of oxygen in there, which makes the compression easier to ignite the fuel to begin with. Next up, you would prime this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Then you can try to start it with through one of two methods. One, you could do the pull method, which you yank on this really hard. This isn't in the best tune right now. It's really hard to do it that way. We're going to do it with the electric start system. So I have this cord right here. It's the female side of this. It plugs into this male end right here. There's only one way it can go in. Once it's in, you're going to push this button until it starts. I'm going to explain the process first because it's loud. After it starts, you're going to start backing off this switch until it idles at a smooth rate, and you'll be able to hear the difference. It may not catch always on the first time. Give it another shot. Almost caught that time. We need probably just a little bit more air. Now you notice after I got it started, I let it run for maybe a few seconds before I kicked it back another notch here. As soon as it gets started, it's going to be starved for air and it's going to want more air. So you want to try to back it off one notch, and then you're probably going to be able to operate in 1 or 2 notches, probably most likely 2 notches from full right when you are plowing, unless it's really cold outside. Now just a couple of other things when you are plowing. Now when you go to plow and you go to put it in gear, when you go to make it move by pushing the right lever, you need to have it in the proper gear first. 5 is the fastest speed. You will never be able to plow in 5. You are most likely going to plow in 1, 2, or 3, most likely 2. If it is really fluffy and light, you could probably get away with 3. Most of the times it's 2. If it is really heavy and wet, you need to be in 1. And to move the lever, you pull it back towards you and slide it to where you want it to be. Number 2, never have it in gear when you're putting it back into the garage. It might get away from you and run into one of the cars. You can run it up to the edge of the concrete of the floor, but then do not use the gear drive system. You're going to need to push it in and turn it around so that you don't run into something. Also, never point this chute at any car or any person. Always have it tried to be pointed with the wind if you can, but if you're going, say, between cars and the wind is blowing across, point it straight out. If the wind blows the stuff onto the cars a little bit, that's okay, but this could possibly pick up rocks or anything else and throw it at something. So you never want to have it pointed at someone or at a thing because it could be dangerous. On here is this guide. It just slides back and forth, and that determines how high or how far it's going to try to throw it. If it's really windy, you can't have it up here. You need to have it down some. If it's not that windy, you could potentially have it a little higher and it will throw it farther away. Lastly is this lever right here. Turning this determines which way it's going to throw snow. Pretty simple. Again, when you're ready to shut it off, either for real or in case of an emergency, you're going to flip this lever down. One final note, once you have it running, you need to pay attention to the sound of the engine. Make sure it is smooth running. You will notice that as you engage the auger system and you actually start throwing snow, it's going to be under more strain. So you need to monitor that. You'll be able to start learning how it's going to react as you get into the snow. As it gets into deeper snow, you're going to want to move along just really slowly. So you'll actually use the right lever to move forward a few inches and then let the augers catch back up. Move it forward a few more inches and let it catch back up. You want to do that because if you put too much strain on it, it's going to stall the engine, and then you'll have to restart it all over again. And if you're way down at the bottom of the driveway, it's a real pain to push back up the hill.